I had just turned 22 when I transferred to a new university for my final year. The campus was bigger, the crowd bolder, and the hostel room colder than I expected. Room 309 was assigned to me, a small box-like space with 2 beds, 1 wardrobe, and barely any sunlight. My name is Ayan, and by now I had perfected the art of keeping secrets, especially the kind that sat heavy on your chest when the lights went out. When I walked in that first day, he was already there. Arman. Tall, easygoing, a little too comfortable in his own skin. He was sprawled across the bed by the window, one hand behind his head, earbuds in, bobbing slightly to music I couldn't hear. When he noticed me, he pulled one earbud out and grinned. "You must be the new guy. Ayan, right?" I nodded, pretending to be more confident than I felt. He extended his hand without hesitation. "Arman, mechanical engineering. And professional sleeper, so don't expect deep conversations before noon." We both laughed. I wasn't used to someone like him, so effortlessly charismatic. Everything from the way he walked barefoot across the tile floor to the way his shirt clung to his chest felt magnetic. Dangerous, even. Over the next few weeks, our routine settled. Mornings were quiet, nights filled with Arman's playlists, shared jokes, and the occasional dinner in the common mess. He had a girlfriend in another city, Nida, an on-again, off-again situationship that existed mostly through voice notes and dramatic phone calls. I'd hear snippets sometimes. "No, I didn't ignore your message," or "Babe, I swear I just crashed after class." I'd lie there on the other bed, headphones on, pretending not to listen. He never asked about my love life, and I never offered. Maybe he assumed I had someone. Maybe he didn't care. Either way, I was fine with the silence. I didn't need him to know that I had once fallen hard for a boy named Samir back in my old college. And I definitely didn't want to explain how that story ended, in shame, confusion, and a transfer form. But Arman made it difficult. He'd towel off in the room after showers, teasingly ask which shirt looked better on him before a class, sometimes even flop onto my bed when his own was a mess of snacks and textbooks. "You don't mind, do you?" he'd ask, already lying down. No, I didn't mind. That was the problem. One night, he walked in late after a party, clearly a little tipsy. His hair was a mess, eyes slightly glazed, but his smile was as disarming as ever. I was in bed, reading. He kicked off his shoes and collapsed onto his mattress. "Girl's a drama, bro," he mumbled. "Nida's mad again. Says I don't take her seriously." I didn't reply. He turned to look at me, his voice quieter. "You ever feel like you're faking it with someone?" That made me pause. I looked up, not sure where this was going. "I mean," he continued, "like you're doing all the things you're supposed to, saying the right stuff, flirting, kissing, whatever, but something feels off." I stared at him. He looked at the ceiling now, his expression unreadable. "I guess," I said slowly. "Sometimes people do things because they're expected to, not because they want to." He nodded. "Exactly." That night, I lay awake long after he started snoring. My heart was louder than the fan above us. What did that mean? Was he just drunk and rambling? Or was there a crack forming in the wall he built around his identity? I didn't know. But I knew something had shifted. The next morning, things were normal again. Arman was back to his usual self, loud, teasing, charming. But I caught him staring once, just for a second too long, when I came out of the bathroom in my towel. He looked away immediately, acting like it hadn't happened. But it had. And, for the first time in weeks, I wasn't just nervous anymore. I was curious. And curiosity has a way of opening doors that were never meant to be unlocked. It had been a quiet Thursday. Most of the hostel boys had left for the long weekend, and for once, I had the room entirely to myself. I cherished that kind of solitude. It felt like breathing without a weight on my chest. I'd finished my last class early, skipped dinner, in the mess, and collapsed onto my bed in nothing but a vest and boxers, legs tangled in the thin hostel sheet, headphones in, letting the soft hum of music lull me into a half-sleep. I didn't expect Armin to be back until midnight. He had texted earlier, "Party at Zubair's rooftop, don't wait up." So when the door creaked open around 9:30, I assumed it was one of the boys from next door. I didn't even look up. I just mumbled, "Use your own room for once." Then I heard Armin's voice, low and amused. "Nice welcome. You always this moody when you're half naked?" I froze. The music still played faintly in my ears, but my heartbeat drowned it out. I yanked the headphones out and sat up. Armin stood near the door, locking it behind him, holding a paper bag, probably leftovers from the party. "I thought you weren't coming back tonight," I said, trying to sound casual, even as I scrambled for the blanket. "Yeah, I got bored. Plus, Zubair's cousin started DJing. It turned into a techno funeral." He tossed the bag onto his desk and kicked off his shoes. He looked more relaxed than usual, maybe tipsy, but his eyes were sharp. They scanned the room, then paused on me. I tugged the sheet up, covering myself more out of habit than shame. "You don't have to hide," he said suddenly. "It's just me." Just him. That was exactly the problem. He walked toward his side of the room but didn't sit on his bed. Instead, he stopped in front of mine, his gaze steady, unreadable. There was a faint flush on his cheeks. Maybe from the drinks, maybe not. "I kept thinking about what you said last week," he added. I blinked. "What did I say?" "That thing about pretending. Doing what's expected instead of what you actually want." I swallowed hard. He wasn't smiling now. There was a stillness in him, a gravity I hadn't seen before. The air between us thickened. "I've never said this to anyone," he continued. "But sometimes I wonder if maybe I'm not as straight as I thought." The words hung in the air, trembling. I didn't know what to say. I didn't move. My mind raced to understand whether this was a confession or a test, or both. Armin stepped closer. We were just a foot apart now. I could smell his cologne, faint and familiar. His voice dropped. "I mean, when I'm with you, I feel something. I don't know what it is, but it's there." My fingers tightened around the sheet. Every instinct told me to keep it light, to make a joke and deflect. But I didn't. "Maybe," I said slowly, "what you're feeling is real. Maybe you're just scared of what it means." He sat down beside me, the mattress dipping under his weight. His shoulder brushed mine. He didn't flinch. "I'm not scared," he whispered. "I'm just confused. But right now, I don't want to think." He turned to me. Our faces were close, breaths tangled. And then he kissed me. Not forcefully. Not with certainty, but gently, hesitantly, like someone trying something for the first time but already knowing they'll want more. I didn't pull away. For a few seconds, everything outside the room ceased to exist. No classes, no labels, no rules. Just the warmth of his lips, the shock of desire, and the ache of long-held restraint crumbling. When he finally pulled back, his eyes searched mine for a reaction. I didn't speak. He stood up quietly, walked back to his bed, and lay down without another word. But something irreversible had happened, and the silence between us was louder than anything he could have said. The next morning felt like a dream we'd both agreed to forget. Armin was already dressed when I opened my eyes. He was packing his backpack, humming something under his breath as if nothing had happened. Not a glance, not a word about the kiss. Just the same casual ease he always wore, like armor. "Morning," he said, tossing me a lazy smile. "Heading to class. Want me to grab you a coffee?" I nodded, unsure of how to respond. He left moments later, the door closing behind him, as gently as he'd kissed me the night before. The hours that followed felt surreal. I kept replaying the kiss, his warmth, the softness of his lips, the way his hand had brushed mine before pulling away. It wasn't a mistake. It couldn't have been. But the way he avoided it told me something else. Maybe it meant everything to me, and nothing to him. When he returned that evening, everything between us had shifted, but only I seemed to notice. He was quieter, not distant exactly, but careful. We talked about routine things, assignments, food, hostel politics, but every word felt like a wall. That night we lay in our beds with the lights off, silence filling the space that once brimmed with late-night jokes and lazy conversations. I turned toward the wall, eyes wide open. Then I heard his voice. "Ayan," he said softly, "I don't know what I'm doing." I didn't turn. "You don't have to." He let out a breath. I liked it. What we did. But I can't be that person. I've got Nita, I've got expectations, my family, my friends. I sat up, not out of anger but exhaustion. "You think I don't understand that? Do you think it's easy for me?" "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I cut in. "You think you're the only one confused? I've lived in that confusion my whole life, Armin. But last night, for once I didn't feel like I had to hide." He went silent. "I'm not asking you to be anything you're not," I continued, more gently. "But don't kiss me and pretend it didn't happen. Don't light a fire you have no intention of tending." He didn't respond. The next day, he stayed out late. Again the next. Soon, our conversations became shorter, colder. He'd come in, change quietly, and go to sleep. I stopped waiting for him to bring it up. I stopped hoping. Then, one afternoon, I walked in and saw him laughing on a video call with Nita. "Yeah, baby, I miss you too," he said into the phone. When he saw me, his smile flickered, but didn't disappear. He didn't pause the call. That night, I packed up a few things and went to sleep on a friend's floor in room K405. I told the warden I was temporarily switching rooms for study focus. No one asked questions. Armin didn't stop me, didn't message, nothing. A week later, I passed by our old room. The door was open, his side was tidy again. My bed was already taken by someone else. I paused in the hallway, letting the memories settle like dust on forgotten furniture. It had lasted only a moment, that strange, beautiful crack in the world. But for me, it had been real. We never spoke of it again, not in the halls, not on social media, not in any way that mattered. He slipped back into his world of certainty. I continued walking through mine, marked by a quiet ache only I could feel. But even now, years later, I remember that night. The kiss that wasn't just a kiss. The confusion that wasn't entirely confusion. And the boy who walked in when I was alone and left before I could ask him to stay.